This is, I sound like Martin, but anyways, that's all right. Keep it. Right. This your cool cousin Kim. My name is Kimberly Slugarambe. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised. So I am a transplant here in the 716. I am also a proud first-generation American by way of a Jamaican father and a Trinidadian mother. Growing up in Bed-Stuy, big up Bed-Stuy, shout out to Bed-Stuy, Chauncey, Missouri, Ralph, and Howard. It definitely gave me my background. It gave me the reason why I'm passionate the way that I am. It gave me my grit. It also gave me my grace. It also gave me my hustle. And I'm just happy that we started this stir. I'm happy to be here with you guys and to really talk about the social determinants of health, things that affected my family and I while we were growing up in Brooklyn, New York, that at the time I couldn't really give it a definition. I couldn't really term it. But the more I was able to gain education and gain access to a quality education, I was able to really give a definition to that, and it definitely became a passion of mine. So yeah, just really want to hop on here, let y'all know a little bit more about me. Go ahead and read the bio for the professional stuff. But yeah, I'm here to really show love the Brooklyn way on the stir with my sisters.
Hey, this is Natasha, aka the Doc, born and raised here in Buffalo, New York, 716. Give it up. I grew up between Buffalo and Brooklyn. Shout out to my girl Kim, that's representing. I'm also the descendant of two immigrant parents that came via Jamaica, via Ellis Island. That's why I grew up between Buffalo and New York. You know, I was always raised with a deep appreciation and resilience and discipline and value of hard work. Anybody that know me, you know I like to work. I'm gonna have 3 jobs maybe, you know, shout out to In Living Color that used to talk about Jamaicans in 10 jobs, but I'm gonna keep that. My parents instilled in me the powerful work ethic, you know, rooted in their own sacrifices and their determinations to build a better life for me and my brother. You understand? Their examples, they have taught me, you know, how not just to work hard, but to appreciate my hard work and the purpose, to lead with integrity. People who know me know I'm always going to stand 10 toes down on what I say and information that I give, right? But also not to forget where I came from. Even though I've leveled up, I'm always, as a nurse practitioner, DNP, psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, board certified, also an adjunct professor, I still know where I came from, and I still know I have to give back to my community, right? So that foundation has always continued to guide me in everything that I do, you know what I'm saying, and the community to work in professional practice. So that's your girl, Tasha, the aka the Doc.
Hey, this is Mrs. T, aka the Spark, and you know what? I am super excited because we are on the Stir 716, and I have 2 wonderful co-hosts that do this right along with me, but you've already met them. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I was actually born in Canada, Ontario, Canada. So I'm a transplant here myself, but I love Buffalo. I love the Western New York area, but I can tell you I love our people everywhere. So I'm just excited to be able to connect with those near and far. I am an educator. I've been in education for a very long time. I've also been in corporate leadership for over 20 years. So I can tell you this is not new to me, but I love this. This is what I do. I love to be able to extend myself and learn new things, and that's what we're doing on the Stir. We are stirring up conversation. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I need you to listen, you need to tap in, click in, lock in with us, because we are going to have nationally recognized guests on this show. So I'm telling you, this is not about me. It's really not about even Buffalo per se. It's about the world. We are doing something that has never been done in this area, and I'm telling you, we are making ripples and effect everywhere that we go and every time that we open our mouths. So I'm so excited about it. I hope you are, and I'll see you in the studio on set, the Stir 716. Hey everybody, you've just entered the Stir 716. This is one of your hosts, Mrs. T, aka the Spark.
This is your girl, the Doc.
And you already know, this is your cool cousin Kim.
And hey, and you know this too, this is the only place where education meets conversation. And yo, I can't believe this is our first podcast.
Yes, it's happening. It's happening. This is our first podcast, our first episode.
I'm so excited.
We are independent. we started off on the radio.
All
And
right.
speaking of independence,
Yes.
we know that we just celebrated Independence Day. And now, listeners, before y'all chew me out, and I mean, feel free to do so in the comments. We know that for America, they gained independence in 1776 from the British. And at that time, slavery still existed in
Yes,
America.
it did.
And it was not independence for African Americans. And so we know we also just celebrated Juneteenth. We sure did.
Yes.
And we understand that Juneteenth, 1865, is when African Americans were freed from slavery from the
Right.
Americans. So we understand we have two different
A lot of things
concepts
going
and
on.
definitions of
Hey.
independence and how it personally relates to a particular people or person. We even have like the Caribbean. They celebrated independence from the British 1961. I know my mother's country, Trinidad and Tobago, they gained independence from the British in 1961.
Right. See, we learning something already.
Is from August 6, 1962.
Come on,
That
come
was
on.
the independence too. So hey.
So we thought it'd be appropriate, to really let's dig into what independence really means to us individually. And the basic definition for independence, it just simply states the state of being free from control, influence, or support of others.
That's it.
That's it.
So I want to ask you, Tosh, Mrs. T, what does independence mean to you?
I think for me, independence means that you have liberty. That means you have a way to make a decision where other people are not judging you so much. And even if they are judging you, that you have the courage to just continue to do what it is you need to do. I love my independence. And one of the things that I love about being independent and really being in this country, because I know sometimes we do talk a lot about the oppression and things that happen in this country, but the reality is that you can still be free in this place because you have to free your mind.
Absolutely.
And so, that's why I feel independent and free, because I know I can make my own decisions.
And with you being in education, I'm sure, the fact that we have freedom and access to education.
Yes,
it may
we
not
do.
be the best depending on where you are, your school district, your zip code.
That is true.
But in some countries, there isn't even freedom to gain access to education, which helps promote upward mobility. So
I love that. I love that. How about you? So I'm going to kick that question over to you. The Doc, I want to find out from you, what is independence?
So independence for me is like allowing myself to be free from people overseeing, running my life, reclaiming my own voice, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And no longer allowing things that breaks me, being able to speak out loud. For someone that, have went through a divorce, I'm able to really reclaim my freedom.
now, are we clapping for this divorce or are we sad?
Right. Like, what's our mood?
You can clap depending on, nobody gets married to get divorced.
That's
so
right.
That's it.
Before y'all chime in my audience, I just want y'all to know it's not celebration like woo woo woo. But certain times your seasons is over sometimes with people, right? But it's giving me a chance to be free for myself, and concentrate on myself. While I'm transitioning into owning my own practice, I'm free from being under someone's schedule and telling me when to go, when I can have life-work balance.
Yes,
So that's freedom for me.
I love it.
Okay, that part.
That's some good independence right there.
It really is.
Let's
And it
do
really is.
And
And I wonder too, like for those who are listening, or even for you ladies here, when we start talking about relationships, we start talking about, we really going to start to dig down, because I love what you talked about having a divorce. But for those of us who are in relationships, in committed relationships, or in marriages, independence has a different meaning, because you are accountable to somebody.
Well, let's be clear. I'm still in a relationship.
Oh no, I know you are. Oh, I know you are. Because you cute. Right.
Tapping in.
No, you are not single. You are divorced, but you are not single.
We not on the radio no more, so you can't call in.
But like you said, in a relationship, there's some accountability.
Yes.
You know what I mean? In marriages too, there's accountability.
But
also you need your freedom. For me as well, is like I'm no longer available for things that breaks me. I'm free from that.
I like that.
I love it.
And I wanted to really hone in on what independence means for you. You say, being, divorced. And for me, it's divorcing. Independence for me is divorcing myself from people's opinions.
That
Because
part.
for a long time, I really cared about what people think, how I should react.
Right.
I wouldn't say a people pleaser, but I will put my emotions to the side, my desires to the side. And mostly it has been in friendships, believe it or not, and in workplace. And that would fuel my anger, even my personal life, you know. So what independence means for me is no longer allowing people to control my emotions. I'm not wearing it no longer on the sleeve, and just really being able to operate in my God-given authenticity, in my God-given talents, and with what He's given me and my contribution to the world as a woman. And we're speaking about that. What really is the contribution that women give to this world? Because it seems like we were only made to get married and have babies, and if you don't do anything else other than that, it's almost, if you do anything else other than that, it's almost like they're saying you're not submissive, right? You got too much education. Why are you working here? You know,
you're too independent.
You're too independent. And so I really feel like independence has been given a bad name. There's a stigma to it, just like mental health and like anything else. And y'all talk to us in the comments. You know, y'all feel free to email us, thestir@powershift.live. thestir@powershift.live. Drop your feedback in the comments. Do you feel like a woman is still able to be independent, yet be submissive to her husband, and take care of her kids?
I mean, and we've seen examples of this. I would say Michelle Obama is probably the epitome of someone who has climbed the ladder. She has always been ambitious. She's been successful at everything that she's touched, but she's also supported a very powerful man. And so there has to be some submission in that, and to be able to say, yes, I support you and I'm undergirding you as your helpmeet in that relationship. But I do understand though that for some women, it is burdensome. Because let's be real. I mean, when you're the wife of a president, yes, you're submitting, but you also, there's privilege there, right? And I don't know, like maybe you all disagree with me or agree, but when you are both working, when everybody is grinding and everybody is just trying to make, like you said, you know, you got the kids, you got all these things going on, responsibilities, you know, and you don't have help. Hired help, or you know, you may not be able to afford that. It does feel sometimes oppressive.
It does.
And it feels like your independence is being challenged.
Like you don't have any. You've been put in this space or this box. So you feel like you're just trapped. Right. So you don't feel like you have that freedom of voice to reclaim yourself, to speak out loud. You understand? But you know, even though she had her husband and her kids, she did have her own independency. She went to law school, graduated, she had her own, you understand? But she also figured out, okay, I have to be supportive of my husband who is campaigning. This is what his goal is, and we're going to do this together, right? But also, as African-American couple, they know the importance of freedom and independence.
And independence doesn't necessarily mean disobedience or disorder. You can be independent, you know. And I ain't even gonna lie, growing up in church, Christendom has really did a number on us, making us think that as a wife and being independent that you're not submissive. And I think a lot of people don't read their word. That's why they buy into that, because at the end of the day, there's a number of women in the Bible that traveled with Paul. You had Phoebe, you had Priscilla, you had Lydia, she sold purple. That's a level of independence. She had a business. That's a bona fide business. You understand? So there were many women in the Bible that you could see where they had a level of independence. Now there's a difference between submitting to leadership and still being independent. Because when you go to the workforce, you still got the board of directors, you got the CEO, the COO, all these different people. You understand? Right. So at the end of the day, I think it's important for people to really understand the definition of independence and know exactly how you're operating in independence. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you are disobedient. For example, I got a 5-year-old. We all had children, right? You guys raised your children, they older. But Yanni's now brushing his teeth on his own. That's a level of independence. And independence shows growth.
Absolutely.
But when someone becomes independent from another person, place, or a thing, or a system, and we'll talk about it later in the community.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We're gonna go there. We're gonna get
In the
there.
African American
Definitely.
community, we are still very much dependent on government and systems, and still dependent on someone
We
to give us
absolutely are.
reparations and liberation, and no one's coming to do that. But as I was mentioning, independence is also a sign and is indicative of growth.
Right.
Because if I keep brushing his teeth, or my husband keeps brushing his teeth,
He's gonna
we are
be
still
won't
in
learn
his
that.
growth.
That's right.
He
That's
won't be.
right.
He'll be always dependent
Right.
on you.
I agree.
So
I
when you're
agree.
speaking about that, so going back to the Independence holiday that we just celebrated. So
Well, y'all celebrated? What y'all did?
Who was that?
Because
we celebrate?
I ain't get invited to nothing, because I'm about
Well,
to
I
say,
do not either,
you ain't
so.
called me, you ain't called me.
I do nothing.
Okay.
Right.
Wait, but
Right.
you was in New York City.
I was in New York City.
Okay.
I was.
How was
And
that?
it was amazing.
Okay.
It was amazing. And like always, you know, the atmosphere will always be, because in our country, right, even people who do feel somewhat oppressed, right, there does feel like there is something to be celebrated in that Independence Day, along with, you know, America, right? You live in America, if you're an American citizen, you certainly have enjoyed the independence and some of the and some of the things that come along with that, and the benefits that come along with that. So the nostalgia is there.
There's benefits in bigotry.
Yes,
Yes,
but there's nostalgia in
That
that,
part.
right?
Yeah.
But I do believe, like you were mentioning, that from a community perspective, from a black and brown community perspective, there's a little bit more dependence on, as you mentioned, systems, or whether it be the government or whatever, and we see that playing out, and it is some of the reasons why we find ourselves in these kind of like social conundrums, where like we can't financially, we seem to be stunted.
Right.
Educationally, we
Right.
seem to be stunted. There's
Right.
things, because if you're waiting for someone to give you something and they really don't have the heart, there really isn't
Yeah,
the
because,
intention really isn't there for you to grow,
right.
then, you know, you're waiting, like you mentioned with your son. He's waiting for you to show him something. He's waiting for you to give him something.
Right.
But if neither one of you show up for him, then he won't ever become independent.
Right.
So I think like sometimes we find ourselves in the community. I don't know how you all feel about it, but we
Yeah.
certainly can
And I
talk
think-
more about
And
that.
I think
Go
we
ahead, go
apply
ahead,
the
sis.
definition conveniently. Independent is such a bad is such a bad thing. And you know, when you look at it from when we talk about health equity, when we talk about the social determinants of health, when we talk about society and culture, it wasn't too long ago in the 1950s, a woman couldn't even open up a bank account without her husband, her brother, or some type of male presence.
Absolutely.
You understand? And so wanting independence, to be able to have your own, it doesn't mean that we want to operate in rebellion.
Right.
You know, it just
Right.
simply means that we want to be able to express, not really express ourselves, but we want to be able to flow in a way harmoniously. And the
Yes.
Bible even
Yes.
says, husbands submit to your wives, and wives submit to your own husband.
Right.
That's
So
right.
submission goes both ways.
Yes.
But I think though, when you talk about black and brown communities,
Yes.
so let's keep it what it is. Like some people think Independence Day is just another holiday free from work. Okay?
Right.
You know, that's
No work that day.
I mean, we just gonna keep that real.
Right.
However, there's a fear undertone with independence. Say for example, when you want to jump out there and start a practice or start a business,
What do
there's a
people tell
fear.
you?
There's a fear, right?
Yes,
There's
right.
some fear
Yes.
because of the negativity that comes along with it, where people kind of downplaying, you're gonna lose this, you're not gonna gain this financially, you're not gonna be able to
You're
pay
not
your
gonna
bills
make
and
it.
things
You're
like
not-
that.
something's
So
gonna
when
happen.
that fear, we lose that fear. So as black and brown community, we have that fear of going forth for independency, because we fear like we're not gonna get there. Something, you know, we're gonna.
And you talking some truth. You really stirring something right now, because if you really think about it, fear has been a common denominator with a lot of systems and oppressors.
Absolutely.
When those that are being oppressed want to exercise their independence, okay?
Right.
Let's start with slavery. Why do you think the Confederates did not want to let go in the South? They didn't want to free the slaves. Fear of us now doing to them what they've done to us.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
also fear of really, who about to till the land? Who about to do
Exactly.
this?
You about to mess up
We
my
don't know
money.
how to do this. Who gonna breastfeed our children? feeling like
That's
the
it.
economy
That's
is
it.
about to crash.
Fear of work.
Right, fear of
Right.
work now, and fear of control.
Control.
Right? Fear that they can no longer
Losing
control
control.
us. And then now, even when you think about it, in the 1950s, when women were not able to open up a bank account without a male presence, right? Even today, you have some men, and I hate to use this word, toxic masculinity.
Right.
There are some masculine men that are toxic, straight up, and there's toxic femininity. There's
Yes, it is.
toxicity. Okay. You have some men that, at the end of the day, if you want to exercise some independence, it's fear of you can no longer control this woman.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
we had Tiffany. What's her name?
Tiffany White.
Tiffany White.
Yes.
We had her on when we was on the radio, and
That's
she was
right.
talking about one of the ways that her, partner was able to like control her, even inflict
right.
abuses when she wanted her independence
Yes.
from some things, and
That's
some
right.
and sometimes what independence looks like is you a cheater, you got some things
Right,
going on,
right.
I'm no longer down with that, I want to
Yeah.
separate myself from it,
Yeah.
and now you upset. And because you control everything,
That's right.
it's hard for me to escape. And I know
Absolutely.
one thing my mother always told me, and if she's watching this, and Nick, if you're hearing this and watching this totally has nothing to do with you. Always keep a little something for yourself.
Oh yeah, that's
Always.
Have
always.
your joint account, but keep a little something for
Listen,
yourself.
ladies, I hope you heard that. Because the reality is this, is that yes, we should trust our husbands.
Yes.
We should trust the people that we have appointed in our life, that sometimes God has appointed in our lives to help, to oversee us, to pray for us and things like that. But be able at any moment to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Because anything could happen.
And
It's
your
good to
children.
have a contingency plan. It's good to have something where you can say, hey, if I had to tap into this right now, as in an emergency,
Yes.
I could do it, and I could take care of
Absolutely.
myself, like you said, to at least get my children to a safe space. I mean, I really believe that, and I think it's
And you
when
need
we
to
have to
have
start
that.
doing
You
that.
got to build your own independency, and if that is where you have your own stash account or whatever, because what I try to tell people, do not purchase something, especially women. Do not purchase something that you cannot afford if that man leaves.
That's true.
Well,
Yourself.
That's true. That's a
You
fact.
understand? And it's not trust and believe, and that person doesn't have to know that. You know what I mean? But
Right.
for your own self, if he decides to get up and leave, and you're counting his half of the money to pay the mortgage, then look where you're going to put yourself into.
Absolutely.
Where now you have to explain to your kids why we got to move here and why was this and the third, and then it's like you lose your whole independency
Yep.
because you were so dependent on that person.
depend- right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You gotta have your
I agree.
dependency, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to rock the boat. You don't have to destroy your household being independent. It
I
doesn't have to
agree.
be
I
negative.
agree.
That's what people gotta understand. We have to get out of that negative thinking of independency as a negative with this negative undertone.
Right,
You
right.
understand? It has to be positive. Even though, okay, we have the holiday and the independency of the country, but you have to have the independency of self as well.
I agree.
And we
I
also,
agree.
I
I agree.
because I'm a believer, right? I'm a woman of faith, and
Oh,
I go
yes.
to church, and my uncle might be listening to this. Shout out, Uncle I.N.D.E.P.E.N.D.E.N.C.E.
Yes.
The church hasn't really equipped women to really understand our role, even our role in submission, right? Haven't properly prepared us for dating. You know, I know growing up Pentecostal, you can't wear red nail polish, red lipstick, you couldn't go to the movie theaters, you need to date in groups and all this kind of stuff. Y'all didn't prepare us while dating, didn't prepare us for marriage, don't know how to please our husband, or husband don't know how to please us, you understand? You haven't prepared us for separation or divorce, because I'm gonna say it straight up.
Yeah.
For someone that's
The
been
rates-
through it and have come out on the other side
That's it.
better,
Yeah.
without the help
But
of
let
the
me tell you
church.
this. Let me.
Right.
The
Let me
Bible says, wives, be separated
Right.
that's
unless
right.
you reconcile with your husband.
Here's the
you
thing, though.
understand?
Here's the
So
thing that people should
separation is
understand.
okay.
Yes, and here's something that people should understand. The divorce rate in the church
It's
is the
higher.
same in the world. It's
Higher.
higher or the same in the world. So if it's a
Higher.
50% divorce rate, that's the same in the church.
But
so
also
there's not a difference. So I love what you said. You're not prepared.
And the reason why I mention
For
that
that.
is because the preparation also has to do with the mothers in the church also need to tell us, baby, have you a little account that's yours. You understand? Have something. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean that I'm not submissive. It doesn't mean I'm trying to run off in the night. But in case something happened, and usually a little stash, like I would say, okay, let your husband know about it. Like, I do have a separate account. Nick does know about the separate account. Does he know how much is in your separate account? No. Yeah, I know he recently bought me a new car. That was with money he had in a 401k. That I didn't even know how much money was in that 401k.
Right.
You understand? So having things, you don't need to be itemizing like how much you have in there, how much you have in there.
No,
but you know that
not.
there is emergency money there, and that is a form of independence. And that's the point I really wanted to drive home for our listeners. That independence does not mean that you're wayward. It doesn't mean that you are not submitting to leadership or the head of your household. Independence means it's the ability to still able to make decisions.
That's right.
Free from another person in the case that you have to.
And let's make this very clear, because for our viewers, I want to make it very clear that even though we're mentioning, because we are women, we're saying in the context of women. This goes for men too. We're talking about how, so before y'all chime into the comments and email, and it's like we're not trying to male bash. We're just saying in general because we're speaking from a woman's point of view.
Right.
But I want men to know that yes, you can have your independency too. You can have your side accounts. Let your wife know if that's what it is. You understand? If you choose to.
Right.
I'm biased though. Even though I'm raising a son, I'm biased though.
I want my people to be always equally. We always talk about equally yoked.
Yes.
Right. Yes. I want I want our male followers to feel like it's not just
absolutely.
The great equalizer. But it has shown that men can be a little bit more sneakier, especially when the divorce get ready or come around, you know what I mean? Like there's ways to hide your money and do all this type of stuff, throwing money in a life insurance policy, opening trust. No, I don't want to give the listeners too many ideas. Okay? I know some ways to hide your money.
You can if you live that, you can talk about it. I can talk about it.
Well, I hope the ladies was listening to what I just said, the tips that I dropped to hide your shmoney. So if you're a CEO and you making that big money, there's ways to hide your money where, God forbid, if you do end up in a divorce, old boy ain't gonna take all your coins. But that's another story for another day. But I'm an avid believer in preparing the saints as well. You understand? I don't want to misrepresent the church. They're preparing the saints on how to navigate in the case of a divorce. Because let's be real, not all divorce is just irreconcilable differences. You beating on me, emotionally abusing me, you better have another bank account. You better ask your mom, somebody to open up the account for you. You know,
and as you mentioned, Tiffany White, who was on our radio show, she said it's people in the church that are experiencing domestic violence, like people who are trying to get out of their marriage. But like you said, we're not prepared on how to leave. How do we have
they don't have anybody to go to.
No.
So if you don't have that support outside of the church and you don't have that support inside the church, what does a person
do? So this conversation is relevant and it's timely.
So not only just financial freedom, you need that freedom of voice, and you need that peace. You understand? You need people to rally around, the community, the village. We got to get back to those.
And in the words of Marcus Garvey, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. And so the definition I gave for independence earlier, basic global definition, is a state of being free from control, influence, or support of others. So if you have to free your mind from mental slavery, that means you have to have some level of independent thinking. And I'm going to tell you straight up, the average American is on a 6th grade reading level, okay?
Of course.
6th grade education. So, and Hitler had this quote that says, and I'm paraphrasing it, good for leaders that men do not think. So it makes it easier.
Ain't that something?
It's easier to control people who are broke, who are sick, and who do not think.
That's it.
That's deep.
See, so we can't be those people.
Right. No. So independence can also mean, I know we've been stressing the money part, the ability to think for yourself.
That's what I'm saying. Independence of yourself.
Think for yourself.
Independence of yourself.
And the word independence is used a lot during evaluations, even for children. We know that he had a speech delay. He ain't talked till he was 3.5. He had speech therapy, his occupational therapy. And they wanted to see a level of independence in these evaluations. And so independence was an indicator for growth. And I got very excited when I could see that he could do things on his own. And not a control freak, and we want to make sure his teeth all white and clean.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And he's like, Mommy, I want to brush my teeth for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm over there cringing because I know you're going to put toothpaste all in the sink.
Yeah.
Right.
And do
Right.
all this.
And he's developing his own independency.
And let's talk about, and let's, as an educator, as someone who has spent time in the schools, as people, someone that understands how curriculum is built. So I want people to understand this. So as our listeners, if you have children in school, please know that the purpose of school is not to develop your child to be an independent thinker.
That's true.
To be liberated in their minds. That's not the goal of public education. The goal of public education is to provide a level of competency so that your children can go into the workforce and become a part of the cycle in this machine. I'm stirring something. Listen, where's my cup? Because what they want to do is they want to be able to push them into the workforce to be a part of the professors that are really into what they're doing, that will provide them with different information to expand their thinking. But the reality is that even at the college level, they still have a very set and approved curriculum and the content that they're teaching
has to be followed.
That has to be followed. That's what they're going to test you on. So you really have to be drawing outside the lines.
Right.
You got to get used to doing that. You can't just toe it and say, this is what they gave me to learn and that's what I'm going to do. Because if you always do that, your independence won't come.
No.
It's not going to come for your children.
Right.
I mean,
they're always going to
you
be
know,
they're going to be a part of that. Got to follow the chain of command.
And
they're always going to be here.
Thinking is crucial.
That's it.
Thinking
Thinking is crucial.
Even in the book of Genesis, when God said, let us make man in our own image and likeness, he was thinking to himself. You understand? And a thought becomes now words, and words now become actions. So thinking is very important.
Absolutely.
CEOs get paid the most money and they do the least work, but they're thinking. They're getting paid to
strategize.
Their thoughts,
right? Yes.
Right? Their thoughts
pass it down.
are important. Let's pivot for a bit, not even pivot, but let's even just step into, even with healthcare with you, Doc. When you want to talk about independence, you understand independent thinking. There was a time when there was a set mainstream way to practice medicine.
Absolutely.
You understand? Now we got this new way, not this new wave, but we have physicians now accepting holistic health and natural medicine. You understand? Have we fully gotten to the place? Well, I think in some practices now, especially obesity practice, where they'll now prescribe you to this your grocery list, or this is
nutrition. They involve nutritionists in a lot of the what we call the treatment
That's
plans.
your area, so let me stay in my lane.
No, but you're absolutely right. There was a time where there were no concerns about nutrition. You still had a diabetic patient, but no one was pushing that issue and stressing that issue about eating holistically, trying different things out of a medication that we prescribe all the time. People can also, like I always used to tell my patients that got type 2 diabetes, you change your diet. You could change how your type 2 diabetes, how your body responds.
Wow.
But people don't know that because it was always a push for this structural type of, this is what we're going to follow in healthcare, this is what we're going to do. We're not thinking outside of a holistic from the mind
and anything independent from that is wrong, not acceptable.
It's not acceptable.
Let me tell you what people started doing. We started thinking. And we started thinking back on what our ancestors did, right? And when I say that, I mean in terms of our predecessors,
Exactly.
Thinking of different foods that are good for you, pomegranate, some cinnamon, really understanding how to let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And once we started thinking, look at the power of thinking. We done changed the course of now the way medicine is being practiced in terms of your basic PCP, primary care provider, now becoming a collaborator with you in your health, rather than you walking in and not thinking for yourself and just taking what they're giving you, being misdiagnosed. You understand?
When you talk about, because that's what we've called the term autonomy. Autonomy was never stressed about a patient having the autonomy to make their own choices when it came to their own health
Right,
care and how
right,
they're going to
right.
treat or care for them, right? But now the big push is you can be your autonomy. You have your autonomous. You can make your decision in this whole treatment plan. Get a second opinion. You know, people used to say those things and you hear those things, but people never really went. They went, their primary doctor says this, they're going to go
And
with
they
that.
trusted,
And
they
they trusted
trust that
it.
process.
They
right.
trusted it, so they never went out and questioned. But when you start to think and do your own research, now let me be very clear to the viewers, please don't turn it to Google Docs, because that's...
Listen,
Well, I heard
please.
that's what they be doing.
Yeah,
That they go
no
outside.
Google
Yeah,
Docs.
don't,
Oh my
because everything
goodness.
on the internet is not factual, okay?
Right,
You
right.
definitely have to do your research on top of research on top of research. But ask questions. You have the freedom to do so.
And that's what research is.
You know
We
what
are
I'm saying? You have the-
researching
yeah.
what has
And
been
you have the
That's-
freedom.
that's
I always
right.
stress to patients, you have the freedom to ask. You have a freedom to second guess that primary care
Right,
provider.
right.
They're not God. You understand? So they're giving you based on information that they're learned over experience over years. However, you know yourself. A person knows how your body is going to respond to certain things, what's happening, what's going on.
Agreed.
You have the autonomy and the freedom, freedom. When I'm doing air quotes, people.
Yes.
The freedom to make those choices and make those decisions.
Right.
And you have to stand on those. And as a clinician, I'm always telling my patients, I am okay with, I'm an advocate for you.
Right,
You understand?
right.
I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to make you whole and have a positive patient outcome.
Right.
So let's work on that together.
And you know what? I love how sometimes we say, I know, okay, you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? Like especially in like healthcare advocacy, like we tell people, advocate for yourself and
Right.
ask these questions and things like that. But people will say, but I don't even know what to ask.
Right.
I don't even know what like when I'm there,
Right.
you tell me to advocate for myself, but what am I even asking about or what do I
Tell
have?
your symptoms. You know what I mean? Some people they're quiet. You know, something's going on with you. You go to the doctor. Don't just let them tell you what's wrong with you.
I'm not buying that.
Say-
That's foolishness because
Yeah.
people use that as an excuse, but they don't practice that. When you go to the nail salon, you just sit there
Yeah.
and let them do what they want to do to your nails.
Absolutely.
When you go to the hair salon,
Right,
don't you
right,
say,
right.
"Oh, I want it this way. I want
Right.
it that way." Now, if you're one of those people that really just sit down and let people do what they want to do to you, you got money to
Right.
waste.
Yeah, you got
Right.
to
Money
take
away.
there's some
Come see me.
accountability. There's some accountability that you have to take as a person. You know what I mean? You have to speak up for yourself. If you've been feeling a certain type of way for a week, describe your symptoms. You understand? And say, hey, I don't know, you gave me this, doc, but this ain't really working for me. Let's think about something else.
Right,
Right?
right.
Ask questions. No question is a stupid question. You understand? Because I don't, like I used to tell people, I don't sleep with you.
Right.
I'm not with you all the time.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on with you. You have to tell me. And then we can try to figure it out together collectively.
That's
And
so-
That's your
that's so
independence and that's
great.
your freedom to be able to have and question me. As a clinician, you can question me, but you have that freedom to do so. And I want you to be independent in your care as well.
I
And
understand.
so we want to let our listening audience know, if you're listening to us. This is the point of the stir. It's to stir your mind, to get you
Yes.
thinking,
Yes.
to get you to move to action, to get you to move out of the norm, to
Right.
get you to really get yourself to a place where you are whole. And so I really like the fact that we were able to really, go around and really talk about what independence means to us.
Absolutely.
And I hope we stirred it up. If we stirred something up, please hit us in the comments. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, on YouTube, at The Stir 716, and visit our website, www.thestir716.com.
Because we want to hear from you guys.
We wanna hear from
we
you
wanna hear
guys.
from you as followers, like what your opinions are, what, if you have topics that you want to talk about, don't think that your voice is that you just have to sit and listen to everything. We would like to hear from you guys too as following us. Hey, something that we can stir up.
And look, this is
Yes.
a community. The Stir
This
is
is
a community.
community,
Like
right.
Mrs. T said, you have entered the Stir. And if we said something that you disagree with, listen,
We wanna
hit us
hear
in the
that too.
comments.
Yeah,
Hit
we
us
wanna
in the
hear that
comments.
too.
Hit us in the comments if we said something that maybe needed to be fact checked, even though
Yeah.
we try to speak 100% facts.
Right.
You know what I mean? hit us in the comments.
Because you have the freedom to what? Do so.
You got the freedom to do so. It's your First Amendment.
Right.
Yes.
So they say.
And that's how we learn from one another. You understand? We learn from one another. You know, people researching things and they speak on things and people learn. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't know about the independence of different countries. You know, not just this country.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? So
That's right.
It's definitely a learning too, exactly. As we're stirring up things.
As
and
we're stirring up
issues.
things. So we want to ask you guys a
Yes,
question.
we have
Okay.
questions.
So if you're listening, if you're watching,
Yes.
right? For those that are listening to us on Spotify, that's listening to us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or whatever your streaming live audience is, we want to leave you with a call to action. What are some ways that you can become more independent? And what are some ways in which independence has scared you?
I
Okay?
love that.
And lastly, I want you to do a SWOT analysis of codependency, right? Where has codependency gotten you? What are you fearful of in freeing yourself from codependency? Now, some codependency is needed and is valid.
Yes.
But some people really have turned codependent. They're calling it codependency, but it really is dependency. So there's some people that want to start their own business. Shout out to you, sis. So happy to know
Yes.
you opening your own practice.
Her own private practice.
Some of you want to do that. You
Yes.
want to open your own business. You want to start your own podcast, but you still stuck on the radio, whatever it is else you're doing, and you scared to go do your own thing. Some of you guys want to go back to school. Some of you got so many ideas and so many things that you would like to venture out into, but for some reason it seems more comfortable and more safe to hide under the shadows and ride on somebody else's coattail. So I hope that you guys were able to take something away from the Stir.
Absolutely.
And this first episode, really, we just wanted to get y'all to know a little bit about us. Y'all to see how our energy flows, the synergy that's in the
The
room.
vibe is.
But moving
Ooh.
forward, just like with the radio show, we are bringing back expert guests. We're not going to tell you who our guest
Nationally
on our next
renowned.
episode is going to be, who our guest on our next episode is going to be. But moving forward, we are going to have expert guests that are going to join us for episodes, and
It's gonna be
there'll be times when we'll
amazing.
check back in with y'all with it just us three.
Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, what else we want to tell them?
Things that's going to stir up their minds, stir
Right.
up thinking.
Yes,
The guests that will be
yes.
coming on, whether or not you agree or disagree with what they may or may not say, but it's to stir thinking.
I love it.
You know, and
I
have
love
those individual thoughts. And, you know, like I said, the STIR is here for the empowerment, educational, for people to learn about things that they may not just know about.
Right,
And that's fine. You understand? That's
We
what
want to
we're
love
stir
this.
conversations and ignite
Ignite
ideas.
ideas,
And remember,
absolutely.
you are one idea away from being successful.
Oh yes.
Whatever success
whatever,
means
that's
to
right.
you.
Whatever
Step out of
that
the
means.
fear.
Mhm.
Step out
Feel
of
the fear and do it anyway.
That's it.
Anyway.
That's
And
it.
I believe I learned this from church, right? So shout out to church.
Yes,
This is where I got
yes.
it from. But one thing I remind myself constantly is that my faith is not my feelings, and my feelings is not my faith.
I love it. I love it.
Faith is my foundation.
I love that.
Because what? Faith without works is
It is dead. It is
R.I.P.
dead.
that
It
part.
is dead. So I know that in my closing remark, I just want to say that I feel blessed, not just to have this platform to be able to connect with those of you who are watching, for those of you who are listening. I'm excited about what we're getting ready to do, but I know that I am in good company, and I can't wait for you to see what we have coming. So here we are, ending our first
This
podcast.
is
Thank you for
the
listening.
Stir.
Thank you for watching. And this is the only place where education meets conversation. Wow.
The stir it up.
Stir it up. And that's it.